Hey there. I'm a 49-year-old guy who has been a single dad ever since my daughter was born. My wife, her mom, passed away tragically while giving birth to my daughter. It was just the two of us after that, and I've done my best to raise her all on my own. Raising a kid alone is tough, and while I don't think she owes me anything just because I'm her dad, it would be nice to feel a bit of appreciation now and then. But here's the kicker. Recently, things have taken a bit of a sour turn. My daughter, who's now 24, told me a couple of days ago that she didn't want me at her wedding. Her fiancé and his family think I don't look rich enough to fit in with their crowd. That hit me hard. It was really painful to hear that from her, considering everything we've been through together. Now, let me tell you a bit about this fiancé, Alex. He's from a super wealthy family. We're talking big-time tech company money. The guy has always got the fanciest clothes and even drives 3 different cars. Me? I'm a mechanic. I make a decent living, enough to have kept us afloat and comfortable through all these years, just the two of us. Things were okay until she started seeing Alex. After they began dating, she even hinted that I should spruce up the house to make it look nicer. It's strange how things started to change between us since she got involved with him. At first, I didn't mind Alex, he seemed all right. But now, things are just weird. I mean, not wanting your own dad at your wedding because of how he looks. That's rough. She mentioned that the old furniture in my house was embarrassing for her since she had been to Alex's parents' mansion, which was incredibly opulent. She wanted me to at least put an effort into making our home look better. We had a fight after that first meeting because I did not think there was anything wrong with how our house looked, and the fact that things were old just meant that they had character. I did not want a glamorous lifestyle like Alex or his parents because I knew I could not afford it and wanted to live within my means. I was perfectly happy with how my life was, and I had no complaints, so she had no reason to be complaining either. But we got into a fight, and I told her that if she was so embarrassed by me, then maybe she shouldn't have introduced me to her rich boyfriend in the first place. She realized that she was being harsh and apologized to me later, and we were able to patch things up. But after that, she never brought Alex over to our place, and I only met him a handful of times. I met his parents once when they got engaged, and I attended the party they threw. Even then, my daughter had a lot to say about the way I was dressed, suggesting that I should have put more effort into my attire. But according to me, I was dressed just fine. 3 days ago, she visited me and told me that after Alex and his parents had met me at the engagement party, they didn't think I would fit in with the crowd at their wedding, as it would be mostly their friends and other business associates who worked with his parents, but none of her family members. Since Alex's parents were funding most of it, she thought it would be better for her to respect their wishes. She even said she would have a private ceremony later that I would be invited to, but for now, she just wanted me to understand where she was coming from, because ultimately, she did not want me to feel out of place. I was very hurt when she said that, and I started crying. But then she got really exasperated and said there was nothing worth crying over because it was just a fact that I did not look rich enough to fit in there, and she did not want me to embarrass neither myself nor her. She told me that she had hoped I would understand, but I was just being selfish by not caring about her image in front of her in-laws. And once I stopped crying, I told her to get out of my house and never come back. She tried to argue, but I just screamed at her and asked her to leave. Once that was done, I was still pretty upset. So I decided to do something that I'm not sure was the right move or not. 2 weeks ago, I had actually helped her get the venue that she wanted for her wedding. When she called to check up on me a couple of weeks back, she had been telling me that she was struggling to finalize the venue. Apparently, the place that Alex had his mind set on was not something that had been listed in the properties that their wedding organizers had shown them. But it was a really beautiful place, a little out of the city. However, the owner was not willing to put it up for rent and had refused to let them get married there. And he had been trying to negotiate with this person for ages, along with Alex's parents, but he just refused to give it up no matter how much money they offered him. And so he was equally stubborn. She had refused to even consider any other place, and now there were just a couple of weeks to go for the wedding, and they had even sent out invitations with their address printed on them, on Alex's insistence. But they still hadn't been able to finalize the place, and was still trying to negotiate with the owner when she told me the name of the owner. I realized I knew this person. I used to go to college with this guy, and I immediately thought that maybe I could help her out, but I wanted it to be a surprise. So I just told her I was sorry about it and hoped that things would work out for her somehow. But then I decided to reach out to this guy somehow. And after speaking to him for a couple of days, I figured that the reason he was not willing to rent out his property for any events was that he and his wife were worried that if they allowed the events to be held, that the people hosting would trash the place. And it had happened a couple of times before, So they did not want that to happen, and they wanted to preserve the natural beauty of their property. But I told him that this was my daughter that we were talking about. Since he knew me personally, I could vouch for the fact that none of this was going to happen. And on top of that, Alex's parents were also the owners of a top tech company, so he did not need to worry about whether the place would get trashed or not. It took me a while, but after a few days I was finally able to convince him and he agreed to speak to my daughter. I was also able to convince him not to mention my name, because I wanted to tell them about it after the wedding and surprise myself. Anyway, once I was able to convince him, he agreed to it. My daughter was really happy. She had no idea I was behind all of this, and I guess that was why she was so confident when she told me that I was not wanted at the wedding. Anyway, after she paid me that visit, I was very hurt, and I decided to call up the owner of the place, and I explained to him what had happened just now. I did not intend to overshare, but I was so upset. I just ended up telling him everything, and he literally had to comfort me, even though we are not particularly close. But he and his wife were really kind to me, and told me that they were going to back out of the deal because they did not think they wanted to have anything to do with such an ungrateful person. I thanked them, and the very next day they told me that they had returned the money that they had taken in advance and had informed them that they would no longer be able to rent out their property to them. So they had to look for someplace else. So his parents had apparently been furious and had even threatened to sue them, but they said they did not care about any of it. There was still 2 weeks to go for the wedding, and the papers that they had signed clearly stated that they were perfectly within their means to cancel up to 1 week before the event was supposed to be held. So they couldn't exactly sue them on any legal grounds because they had stuck to the contract. It's not their fault they didn't get their lawyer to read the fine print in a hurry, so now they did not have a venue, and I felt pretty vindicated. So much so that I decided to put all of this in the letter and send it to my daughter. It was a petty move, I agree, but she had hurt me a lot over the course of the past couple of months, and I just couldn't tolerate this anymore. So I explained everything in my letter, and instead of posting it, I went to her house that evening itself, knocked on the door, and left that letter on the doorstep before driving back home to make sure that she wouldn't be able to reach out to me. After that, I decided to block her, and as soon as I got into the car, later that night, she paid me a visit once again, but this time she cut a much more sorry figure. She told me that she had come over as soon as she had finished reading the letter, and she was here to apologize because she had no idea that I was the one who had managed to get that venue for her. She was literally crying and said that she was really sorry about the way she was treating me, and she had no idea that it would hurt me so much. But now she had spoken to Alex, and even he was quite upset, so she needed me to speak to the owner and fix the situation for her because there were just 2 weeks to go before the wedding, and all the invitations that had the venue's address printed on them had already been sent out. So they really needed my help at this point. She started begging me to help her out, but I told her that the way that she had been treating me for the past couple of months, ever since she had started dating Alex, had been absolutely unacceptable, and the things that she had said were really hurtful. So I didn't think that I wanted anything to do with her after this, because I had believed that I had raised a good woman. But she had been extremely shallow and had decided to side with her fiancé and his parents over her father. I told her that right from when she was a child. I have sacrificed a lot for her, and in return I had only ever expected her to be a bit appreciative of me. But she had made it very clear that she was ashamed and embarrassed by me and did not want to claim me as her family, just because her fiancé and his parents were not on board with it and were embarrassed by me. She said that she was going to take it all back, speak to Alex and his parents, and get them to apologize to me as well. But for now, she just wanted me to speak to the owner and fix the situation so that they could get married in the venue that had been chosen already. I told her that I had already spoken to the owner and I was not going to keep disturbing them again and again. So now they had to figure out a way to deal with this on their own because I would not be able to help them out in any way whatsoever. And then she started getting pissed off and told me that I was being really unreasonable right now. So I told her that she had to leave because I could not help her out. I was feeling pretty adamant at the time, but she just seemed to give up and told me that I was free to do whatever I wanted. But if I did not help her out this time, I was going to lose her forever because she had never thought of me as a vindictive person. But clearly I was being extremely selfish, and she was sick of having to balance these two because it was just so much pressure on her. She told me that she couldn't keep up with this balancing act, but at least Alex would be understanding. She claimed that she was exhausted and was done with it. Then she left, and since then, I've been worried about whether I have made the right choice or not. So I'm here to ask, am I the a-hole for refusing to help my daughter get back her wedding venue? Update 1. Hi Reddit. It's been a week since I've spoken to my daughter last, and I still haven't reached out to the owner of the venue to fix anything. I've been pretty conflicted about what I needed to do, but things are clear to me now. I was just being a sentimental fool, but I've thought things through. My daughter is old enough to deal with this on her own. Besides, I really don't even think that I could get the owner to change their minds after what I told them because they seemed pretty firm on their decision. I have spoken to a bunch of my friends and relatives and have explained the entire situation to them. A lot of family members were also pretty surprised that she was getting married, but had not received an invitation. So I told them the real reason why she wasn't inviting us was that she was embarrassed by her family and didn't think we would fit in with the crowd that her fiancé and his parents had invited. People were really offended, and when I told them what I had done with the venue and everything, they seemed to think that it was an appropriate reaction for me to have. Also, my daughter hasn't even bothered to speak to me after the last time she left, and we didn't exactly end that discussion on a good note. If she really thought that this was important enough, she would have reached out to me once again. There are just a couple of days to go for the wedding. I don't know what they're going to do since they have already printed the address of the venue on the invitations. But I know that is really not my problem anymore because if she doesn't want to invite me to her wedding and consider me her family, it also means that I have been absolved of my responsibility. So I'm still trying to process this emotionally because it's quite a difficult thing, as throughout my life all I have ever had is my daughter as a single father. But in my head, I have made a decision and I'm going to stick with it. Update 2. Hi, Reddit. So there are just 2 days to go until the wedding, and I was really not holding out any hope that my daughter would reach out to me anymore. But today, Alex actually reached out to me. It was pretty surprising that he would ask to speak to me because I had assumed that he and his family did not want me at their wedding in the first place. So why would he expect me to want to talk to him? But when he called, I had a gut feeling and I answered. I was pretty cold to him, but on the other hand, I could hear him trying his best not to cry while he spoke to me and said that he knew I had some huge fallout with my daughter. But he just needed one chance to speak to me and convince me to fix things. He said some very strange things, like how he knew I did not like him much and that we hadn't started off on the right foot. But he really respected and admired me and always had. So now he wanted me to speak to the owner of the venue and try to fix this situation. Even though he knew that I was in a fight with his fiancé at the moment, he said that my daughter had apparently forbidden him from speaking to me about anything, but he really wanted me to know that he had been really disappointed when he found out that I would not be attending the wedding. That was really weird, and I snapped at him and told him that he did not need to put on an act with me because I knew that he was the one who had told my daughter that he and his family did not think that I was going to fit at the wedding, which is why I had not been invited, and my daughter had turned against me because of them. There was silence on the other end for a couple of minutes, and then he went on to say that neither he nor his parents had said any such thing, and there must have been some misunderstanding after that. Both of us were really confused, and I insisted that this was exactly what my daughter had told me. And he, on the other hand, said that he had said no such thing. And in fact, my daughter had told him that I was the one who had refused to attend, because apparently I did not like him, and did not approve of his family because I thought that they were too arrogant and snobbish. Once we had swapped stories, we realized that my daughter had been feeding us both a bunch of lies because, in all probability, she was the one who was embarrassed and was throwing Alex and his family under the bus just so that she wouldn't have to invite me to the wedding and show everybody at the wedding that she did not exactly belong to their world. I realized what was going on. My head literally started spinning, so I told Alex that I would call him back later to discuss this in detail. But for now, I just need a break. After about half an hour, once I had managed to process this, I called him back and we talked about this some more. I told him everything that happened right from the beginning, how my daughter had always made it seem like he and his family had a problem with me. But he claimed that he had never said any of those things, and neither had his parents said anything that my daughter had claimed. And he told me that my daughter had always made it seem like I did not like his family, which is why he had kept his distance from me. And even when she decided not to invite me to the wedding, she had said something else to me, which you guys all know. But she had told Alex that I was the one who was not interested in attending because I did not approve of him, and had actually told him that she was going no contact with me. So he needed to respect that as well. And that was why he had never bothered to speak to me about it until now. I was incredibly hurt when I learned these things were happening because of my daughter, not because of her partner, because at least when I believed that Alex and his family were behind all of this, I could forgive my daughter, even if it was just a little bit because I knew that she was under somebody else's influence. But now, knowing that she was doing all of this on her own, there is just no forgiveness for her in my heart anymore. After speaking to Alex, both of us were really disappointed, and he told me that he had nothing to say to her anymore. After apologizing to each other for the misunderstandings, We hung up. It has been a couple of hours since then, and I'm just sitting in one spot with no idea what to do. I'm pretty sure that after finding out all of this, she is going to cancel her wedding. And good for her. She actually deserves better. And so do I. But unfortunately, I can't exactly find a better daughter for myself. This is all I have. And every time I think about how much I have done for her and what she did to me, my heart just starts hurting more and more. I'm pretty sure she's going to reach out to me after this, since she's going to be able to figure out this. Alex and I have had a discussion about all of this, and both of us know the truth now with nowhere to go. I'm sure she'll come back home. But with what she has done, I think she has lost the right to call my house her home, and me her father. Update 3. Hey, Reddit. After yesterday's post, I've been grieving the loss of my daughter. She's alive, but I know I've lost her. And even if she comes back, I'm not taking her back in. At least, not until I have managed to deal with this emotionally by myself. But I had predicted that with nowhere to go, she would come back home. And that's exactly what happened today. I figured that once she found out the truth, Alex would address the problem with her. And that's what had happened. A couple of hours ago, around early evening, somebody started ringing my doorbell frantically, and when I saw who it was, I decided that I was not going to open the door, since it was obviously my daughter. I spoke to her through the intercom and told her to leave because everything that she had done meant this home did not have a place for her anymore. I could see that she had a bunch of bags behind her, and she looked exhausted. Her face was all splotchy, like it would get when she had been crying. But I didn't let that weaken my resolve, and I just ignored it when she told me that she was here to apologize to me and fix her mistakes. I could hear the desperation in her voice, and it was pretty difficult for me not to respond to that, but I just tuned her out. I could hear her saying that Alex had kicked her out after the fight that they had, and she knew that both of us were aware of everything now. She kept speaking about how things had been really difficult for her adjusting to Alex's world, and in the process of trying to do so, she had started acting like somebody she wasn't, and she was really sorry that she had been embarrassed of me and her family and where she came from. But it was just all really new to her in the beginning. And after a while, she got used to pretending, and she got so engrossed in the act that she forgot that I was not a part of this act and it was hurting me. She said that she knew that she had been selfish, and she knew that she probably did not deserve either of our forgiveness. But she just wanted the chance from me, since I was her father and I would be more forgiving than her partner. At that point, I told her that I might have been more forgiving if she had actually been sorry. But right now, she was just sorry that she had been caught in all her lies. She was sorry because she needed a place to stay, and she did not want to spend money living in a hotel or finding a place of her own. But she was not sorry for what had happened, because if she was, she still wouldn't be trying to justify what she had done. She would just be apologetic, acknowledge her mistakes, and let it be. But she had mentioned how difficult it had been for her at least 5 times since she showed up. So I did believe that she was genuinely apologetic. I told her that I might forgive her eventually. I'm not sure of that yet, but for now I wanted her to just leave me alone. She then started bargaining with me that she would be willing to pay rent to stay with me. But she just wanted to come back here and make things right with me. She even said that she was saying this genuinely because if she wanted to, she could have lived with her friends. But I knew that she was bluffing because from what Alex had told me, she hadn't even bothered to invite a bunch of her friends to the wedding. So in all probability, even they were not on speaking terms with her as of now. And that was why she was so desperate to live with me. Anyway, after a while of bickering with her, she snapped at me and said that I was just as heartless as before and then left. I know she's not going to be homeless. She has enough resources and means to figure out a way to live on her own for a couple of weeks. And after that, she can just find an apartment for herself. My job is done as a father. I just had to raise her to be a decent human being, and for a while, she was a good person. But now this is not my problem anymore. Update 4. Hi, Reddit. So it has been 2 weeks since my last update, and on the day that my daughter was supposed to get married, all that happened was Alex put up a post saying that he and my daughter had parted ways and he wanted everybody to respect his privacy at this difficult time. A bunch of people sent me that post and I kind of felt bad, but not enough to reach out to my daughter to console her. After that last day when she showed up at my house and I refused to let her in, she didn't bother to contact me anymore. So I guess I was right about what I had said. She was just sorry back then because she had been caught, and she knew that nobody else apart from me would even think about speaking to her again. But I had decided to turn my back on her, and since that had happened, she hadn't reached out to me to apologize. So I guess she's fine with staying no contact, as am I. I've been living on my own for the past couple of years anyway. So what difference does it make to be completely by myself? And it's not even like I'm lonely. I have friends, I have family, and I have my life. My daughter is just not going to be a part of it anymore. And that's it. Maybe I will find it in myself to forgive her one day, but it's not going to come anytime soon. And I am fine with that. Update 5. Hey Reddit, I'm back with another update, though I wish it were under better circumstances. Since my last post, things have escalated in a way I never anticipated. It's a strange and painful chapter in this ongoing saga with my daughter, and it's taken quite an emotional toll. Yesterday, a wave of messages from friends and relatives started hitting my phone, all pointing me towards my daughter's social media. What I found was a series of posts where she openly badmouthed me, claiming I had ruined her life and calling me selfish. She even went as far as to accuse me of deliberately sabotaging her relationship with Alex. Reading those words felt like a punch to the gut. There's something uniquely painful about seeing your child, whom you've loved and raised, turning against you so publicly. Her posts painted a picture of me as some kind of villain in her life story, a narrative I know in my heart isn't true. The impulse to jump in and defend myself was overwhelming. I wanted to correct every false statement, to tell my side of the story to anyone who would listen. But then, as I sat there, scrolling through the comments of support she was receiving, a quieter, more reflective voice in me began to speak up. I realized that engaging in this social media battle wouldn't just be futile, it could actually worsen things. If there's one thing I've learned, it's that the internet is not a courtroom, and trying to plead your case in a public forum often just leads to more misunderstanding and conflict. Despite the hurt, I understand that my daughter is in pain too. Her actions, though harsh, are driven by her own hurt and confusion. Perhaps this is her way of coping, of trying to take some control back by shaping the narrative in a public platform where she feels supported. It's not right, and it's not fair, but it's what's happening. Instead of public rebuttals, I've chosen to reach out to those closest to us, people who've watched my daughter grow up, who've been part of our lives through thick and thin. I've shared my perspective with them, not to start a counter-campaign, but to clarify the truth where it might have been overshadowed by heated emotions. The support I've received from this inner circle has been a lifeline in these turbulent times. For those of you who followed these updates and offered words of support, I can't express enough how much it means to me. This isn't just a thread, it's a community, and your encouragement has helped me feel less alone through all of this. I'm not sure when I'll update next, or what the future holds for my relationship with my daughter, but I'm certain of one thing. I'm committed to moving forward, to healing, and to building a life filled with peace and happiness, whatever that may look like. Thanks for listening, Reddit. Your support has been a beacon during these dark times. Last update. Hello, Reddit. This is what I hope to be my final update on this situation, and it's been the most tumultuous period of my life. I wish I could say things have smoothed over, but recent events have only added more layers to this ongoing drama with my daughter. This update is a bit long, but it's necessary to fully convey everything that's happened. Since my last post, where I talked about my daughter badmouthing me on social media, things took an even more dramatic turn. It seemed like every action was leading to another, more intense reaction. After deciding not to engage directly with her online accusations, I thought perhaps the storm would pass. Instead, it intensified. About a week after my decision to stay quiet, my daughter escalated her campaign against me. She posted videos and lengthy texts, not just blaming me for the fallout with Alex, but also dredging up past events, twisting childhood memories to paint a picture of a deeply selfish and uncaring father. Her posts were emotional and tapped into the sympathy of her audience, garnering a lot of support from people who don't know the full story. The backlash from her narrative started affecting more than just my personal life. Friends began to distance themselves, uncomfortable being caught in the middle of such a public feud. I even received a few hateful messages from strangers who had stumbled upon her posts. It was disheartening to see my character assassinated like this, to watch as my reputation was pulled through the mud based on misconceptions and half-truths. Amidst this personal turmoil, an unexpected event threw everything into even sharper relief. Alex reached out to me, not through social media, but in person. He showed up at my door looking distraught. Alex confessed that he had been reflecting on everything that had happened and felt immense guilt for his part in the escalation of the conflict. He admitted that my daughter had planned to use their split as a way to gain public sympathy and had been manipulating narratives to isolate me further. We had a long, intense conversation where Alex apologized for his role in the misunderstandings and for not speaking up sooner. He was candid about my daughter's intentions and his realization that he had been used as a pawn in her strategy to win public support. This was a lot to process, and while it was vindicating in some ways, it was also a heartbreaking confirmation of the lengths to which my daughter was willing to go. Empowered by this newfound information and Alex's willingness to support the truth, I decided it was time to take action. Not in anger, but for closure. I consulted with a family therapist and a legal advisor to discuss the best way to address the defamation while also extending an olive branch to my daughter to offer her a way back from this path of mutual destruction if she chose to take it. With their guidance, I crafted a response. Not a public one, but a private letter to my daughter, laying out my feelings and the pain her actions had caused, expressing my willingness to forgive and work on our relationship, but also making it clear that the public defamation needed to stop if there was to be any chance of reconciliation. This letter, marked by my lawyer to show the seriousness of the situation, was sent to her directly. I don't know if she will respond or how, but I have done what I can to reach out and also protect myself. Throughout all of this, the support of a few steadfast friends and this community has been my rock. The lessons I've learned about human nature, forgiveness, and the complexities of parental relationships will stay with me forever. As I close this chapter of my life in this forum, I'm focusing on rebuilding the peace in my life and hopefully, in time, rebuilding the bridge with my daughter. The road ahead is uncertain, but I am hopeful. Thank you, Reddit, for being there. Your advice, support, and sometimes just your presence reading my updates have helped more than you can know. Here's to finding peace, whatever it takes.